A lobbying group representing thousands of Louisiana businesses is urging Governor Edwards to end the federal enhanced unemployment benefits. They believe the extra money is dissuading some workers from getting back to work and making it hard for businesses to hire. But some local workers say there's much more to it than that, and they are refusing to go back to work. Tan Trung puts both sides in focus tonight.
Before going on unemployment last March, Sue Watson says she worked 50 years in the restaurant industry, almost exclusively as a server. Watson says her last job paid $2.13 an hour plus tips, but no benefits.
You're not just a server, you're the janitor, you're the garbage man, you're the busboy.
Now in her 60s, Watson says her serving days are done, and it's not because of the added unemployment benefits brought on by the pandemic.
I'm not making as much money as if I was working. I'm not lazy. It's just I'm tired of the industry. It's used and abused servers for so long.
The bottom line is small business owners are competing with government for workers because of the extra benefits.
Louisiana's director of the National Federation of Independent Business says it's clear those enhanced benefits from the federal government are enticing people not to work. The lobbying group represents 3,800 businesses in the state, and it says many are now offering more pay, signing bonuses, and benefits. You'll see many ads saying as much as you drive around.
31% of owners are telling us that they're paying higher wages now than they were last year, before the pandemic.
Dawn McVeigh says Louisiana should follow the lead of 15 other states and stop using the federal bump in unemployment benefits. As the economy rebounds, she says businesses are desperate for staff.
I've had restaurant owners across the state tell me they could hire 30 people to 50 people right now.
A spokesperson for Governor John Bel Edwards said this week that they're unaware of any conversations about ending supplemental unemployment benefits here in Louisiana. Traditionally, if businesses have to pay workers more, that cost is usually passed on through its product or service. We're already seeing various price increases from the pandemic, and depending on how this labor shortage plays out, we may see more. Tan Trung, Eyewitness News.
Now, Georgia and Arizona are the latest Republican-led states that opted out of the enhanced unemployment benefits. President Biden recently said he does not believe those benefits are behind the labor shortage, but he also added that if people are offered a, quote, suitable job, they must take that job or lose their benefits.